You are listening to Spotlight Sessions with Justin Bamforth. The program provides an inside look at the creative field through exclusive conversations with industry professionals. Every episode is recorded live each month in the Adobe Creative Career Discord. Check out the show links to learn more and join for free, or visit adobediscord.com and click on Adobe Creative Career. This episode was previously recorded before a live listening audience. Bartosz Kosowski is an illustrator and poster artist based in Poland. And for the last 19 years, this man has been creating award-winning posters, editorial illustrations, and portraits for clients you may recognize. Apple, Lucasfilm, Disney, Netflix, The New Yorker, The Economist, The Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly, Politico. The list goes on and on. He's received numerous awards from the Society of Illustrators, the World Illustration Awards, Polish Graphic Design Awards, European Design Awards. That list also goes on and on. He has been published just about everywhere, and you may have seen his work somewhere. And for the last several years, Bartosz has been one of the incredible mentors here in the Adobe Creative Career Discord, which is, well, how we first connected. But today, he joins us for an exclusive one-on-one discussion. Bartosz, my friend, welcome to Spotlight Sessions.
Hi, Justin. It's really nice for being here. And, let's just start. After this introduction, I really don't know what to say, so just probably should fire away with the questions, right?
Yeah, hey, I got tons, and I'm sure everybody in the audience has tons too. All right, let's start at the beginning. You studied traditional printmaking at the Art Academy. Now, how has that more traditional training influenced your artistic journey?
Yeah, I studied traditional printmaking at the academy here in Łódź, and it has helped me a lot. Just studying at the academy in general, because I think I learned, the basis of the composition, anatomy, and of course traditional printmaking techniques, because this was the focus of my study. So I don't know. I think the way I draw today is very much the result of what I was studying, because the way you draw the lines, the way you create line work in illustrations, or the way I create line work in illustrations, is very much the result of how I approached such techniques as etching or lino cuts or generally traditional prints. Because even though I work digitally today, I still really love the feel of this, traditional graphics, and I try to come back to that as much as I can. And of course, I don't have a workshop at the moment, right? So I can't do the etching or aquaforts. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with what etching and aquaforts are. But you have to have a pretty big workshop with the acid and print press and lots of stuff which don't fit in my home studio at the moment, right? So additionally, it's like super time consuming, and very complex process. So I focus on different media at the moment. Yeah, but I the only thing which I still do when it comes to traditional prints is the screen printing, because I print most of my posters this way. So I do a lot of screen printed posters for US clients, like galleries creating limited edition license prints. So most of those are released as, 2, 3, 5, 10 color screen prints. And I think that the Art Academy background helped me a lot to create these.
A lot of times, especially with today's society, right? Everybody's just jumping right to the computer, right? They're not doing any like formal fine art. Where do you start? Because I know that you do a lot of stuff within Photoshop, right? With your Wacom tablet. But do you always start there, or do you start more in the traditional sense first before you jump to the computer?
Yeah, these days, actually, I do everything digitally. It's funny because I do everything digitally and then I jump to screen print. So I start digital and then I go the analog way, which is kind of weird because it's like the other way around, right? So, but in the past, 15 years ago, I did everything. I started everything in an analog way, and by analog I mean pen and paper. So I first drew everything with pencil. Then I did the inking with the inking pens. I used the Japanese Copics, which are really really good. Yeah, so I did the sketching with a pencil, then the inking with the pens, then I scanned it, and then I put the colors in Photoshop. So it was much longer process. But for the last, I don't know, 10 years, I think, I've been doing everything digitally. So starting from the sketch or even concepts, I do everything on Wacom tablet or iPad, or, well, actually, I do sometimes do like quick scribbles on a piece of paper, because it's still kind of faster and has this feel which digital tools don't have. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. Well, I think that question is important, right? Because in the design community, I know there's a lot of designers that take issue with that, right? They like to start with pen and paper first, or pencil and paper, making their thumbnails, and then hop into computer later. But it's really interesting how you kind of go backwards sometimes, or you do what works for you. And I think that's important for others to hear. You got to experiment, right? Experimentation is part of the process.
It is, yeah, and I think it's you have to find the way which works with you best. I mean, I can't really say one way is better than the other. It's just each illustrator has his or her own way of starting the project and finishing the project. Yeah, so I think what really counts is the final product or the end result, because it doesn't matter if you do everything digitally or with pen and paper. If the illustration or the poster is good, the client or the audience or the person who buys the poster or just sees your poster somewhere shouldn't really be thinking about whether it was done digitally or not. If the poster is good or the illustration is good, most of the people, the audience, they don't really care how it was created, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's funny. We make it look so easy, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and some of your works, you're flipping through a magazine, you see your piece. Oh, that looks nice. And you keep going. Or a movie poster hanging up in the theater. You're intrigued by it. And it's like, oh, that looks great. And then they keep going. But you put a lot of time, a lot of hours. How long does it typically take you to create, say, like an editorial illustration or a movie poster?
Well, it depends. I mean, with editorials, it's much, editorials are much faster than the movie posters. Currently, I'm working on a piece for a music magazine, like UK music magazine, and I'm doing a double portrait of a band. And I have 1 week to do that. Of course, it's not doesn't mean that I'm gonna spend the whole week drawing these portraits, right? But this is the timeline, basically, right? The fastest turnout was like 1 or 2 days when it comes to editorial illustrations, but with movie posters, it's usually at least a month, right? Because you work with the director, you work with the producers, sometimes you work with the distributors or the galleries or the licensee, and it's just the process is like super long. So you spend weeks working on a poster, and it also results from the fact that as you've mentioned, you flip through the magazine, you see an illustration, you think like, oh, it's a nice illustration, and you flip through the rest of the magazine. But with the poster, the time lapse or the lifespan of a poster is longer, and therefore you spend more time creating it, and usually the clients gives you more time to do that.
All right, so let's get into some of the process of creating a movie poster, because you mentioned you're working with directors, you're working with producers. How does that conversation first begin? Do directors approach you, or do you seek them out?
Uh, Currently, I'm lucky enough to be approached by different directors or galleries, but at the beginning, yeah. Actually, yeah. It's actually when it comes to movie posters, I've always been approached by someone and not approached someone to do a movie poster, right? So, but generally, it worked like that. When it comes to, because we have to make a distinction, or where there are basically two kinds of movie posters they do. The first ones are the ones which are commissioned by the producers or the director, and these are so-called festival movie posters. And these are the posters which are shown at the festivals. So there is this, let's say, mainstream poster which you can see in the streets and in the like mainstream theaters and stuff like that. And then there is this, let's say, more artistic poster which the producers commission, and they show it at film festivals like Sundance or Gdynia Festival or I don't know, Cannes, because they don't want to show, because they want to show a poster which is more, let's say, artistic than the regular photoshopped face of the main actor, if you know what I mean, right? So when it comes to these posters, I'm usually approached by either the director or the producer, and I usually, the fun part of it is that I get to watch the film beforehand. Like usually it's like half a year before the premiere. Sometimes it's like a rough director's cut, which is fun, and I prepare the first sketches. Usually I have a lot of freedom when I work on those, right? So they tell me to, do my job, and they trust me. So I prepare 2 to 4 sketches. Then they pick the one that they like, and I work on the finals. And it's, in about a month or 2 months, it's ready.
You've done some work for some very well-known directors, and one of them is Wes Anderson, right?
So this is actually, and this is the second type of poster that I've mentioned, right? So this wasn't actually commissioned by Wes Anderson. It was created for a gallery show, Spoke Art Gallery in San Francisco, because each year they have this Wes Anderson themed show called Bad Dads, and they ask artists, illustrators to create either posters or artwork generally, which is connected with the films of Wes Anderson. So I've done a couple of those for these shows, and these were all screen print posters. And I've done one which was Grand Budapest Hotel. Then I did one with Steve Zissou. And that's it, I think. Yeah, I was planning to do one more, but no time, unfortunately. So when it comes to these, it's usually the gallery that commissions that type of job. And the fun part thing, even though they are not commissioned by the director, the fun part about these, Bad Dad shows is that Wes Anderson actually was present at one of those shows, and when they released an album with the works from the shows, he wrote a preface to this book. So it's like kind of nice, even though it was not commissioned by him or the producers. He's like super cool with that, and he's very much into the artwork which is created there.
Yeah, and that's why I bring him up, because he certainly appreciates the craft. At Adobe Max this past year, one of the set decorator or set designers there, she was talking about her relationship with Wes Anderson, and I've always got the impression that he's really respectful about the artistic process, because, well, he's a master artist.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, when sorry to interrupt, but when you work on a poster for a Wes Anderson film, it's just like pure fun, because when you watch his films, and you think about the composition, the choice of colors, the setting, and, well, basically everything is so well thought over that the inspiration is basically everywhere, right? And I think I know, I don't remember the name of the lady that you're talking about. She's, I think, British, and she was also at Adobe Max a few years back when I was there, and she was talking about the props that they prepare for the films, and it's absolutely amazing. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
It was one of your first movie projects, right? You were invited to work on a show celebrating the films of Stanley Kubrick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I need to ask, are you talking about Lolita poster or The Shining? Because I did 2 for Kubrick, right, actually.
The Lolita one was the one that really took off, right? Wasn't that your first one?
Yeah, it's actually funny because, it was my first like real movie poster, and you're absolutely right. I did that for a show, Stanley Kubrick show in San Francisco. I think it was 2014. so it's almost 10 years ago, yeah. And it was Kubrick show, and I was asked to do, they asked me, to create something connected with Kubrick. So I did 3 sketches. The first one was Lolita, the second one was Shining, and the third one was Clockwork Orange. And then I kind of thought, okay, probably Lolita works the best here, but I wasn't aware that the poster would become such a viral thing, right? Because to be honest, when you create something and you don't have any distance and you don't show it to the public, let's say, you don't really know. I mean, you may think that, okay, I've created something which works nice or doesn't work that well, but I at least wasn't aware that the poster would be such a hit, because I've won a lot of awards for that, and a lot of people approached me after this poster, and I basically started my whole poster artist career with this first movie poster I've ever done. So it's kind of funny, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a hit you had.
A lot of people say it's like, wow, it's such a simple poster, but it's so difficult to create something like that. Yeah, I remember I redrew it like 3 or 4 times before I got to the point where I found the balance between one meaning and the other. And it's like super hard. It's much easier to draw like a super detailed portraits of 20 people than come up with something like this, at least for me.
In your conceptual thinking, have you ever gone to a certain point where the person commissioning you to do this piece just doesn't get it? They don't see your vision, and then it creates like a challenge. Have you ever been in that situation?
Well, I mean, yes, because when you work with clients, and by clients, I mean, film directors, producers, art directors, from magazines, from advertising agencies, you have to remember that, this is your client and you're doing the work for them, right? And they sometimes don't get it. Or sometimes they are even right that they, maybe, maybe there is a point that they don't get it. Maybe you can improve something, because I know, taking criticism is really difficult, but sometimes, they have a point, right? But I remember one situation where I created a piece which was meant to be a licensed piece for a Star Wars film. It was supposed to go through what's the name? Acme Archives, which is the licensee, how you call it, yeah, of Star Wars universe. And it was very minimalist poster. And they said, yeah, it's too minimalist, right? So, and I personally liked it a lot. Yeah. So there was one case where I thought, well, I think, they could have done it. Yeah. They could have released it. Yeah. But then, well, you can't do anything about it. If you don't have the license for such a poster, you can't do it, basically. Yeah. So these things happen.
How do you deal with criticism? How do you deal with like a client who just doesn't like what you've created?
Fortunately, it doesn't happen that often, yeah, because I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Next year it's going to be 20 years. So when somebody approaches me and have taken a look at my portfolio, I've got like tons of posters there, like hundreds of portraits, tons of illustrations. So they basically, well, they usually, at least, let's put it this way, they usually know what they can expect, right? Because if they've seen, I don't know, 100 portraits, they can probably think that 101st will be pretty much the same, right? So I've been in a situation when somebody asked me to do something which is totally not my style, or they wanted to do something really crazy, and I didn't feel comfortable doing it. So I just say, well, I don't really get involved in that kind of commissions, and I'm lucky enough to have a lot of work so that I can pick the ones which are, well, I don't know if I should put it this way, but like easy to do. Or by easy, I don't mean that this is an easy job, right? But like I do what I know I can do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. Well, on that, there's a question in the chat here from EVU. What about when fans or your viewers of the work, what happens when they don't like it? And how do you silence that inner critic, right? Who may think, oh man, this isn't as good as I thought it would be, or yeah, how do you deal with that as an artist?
You mean that? How do I deal with my own criticism? You mean?
Yeah, how do you process it when somebody has something to say, may not be positive, it may be negative, it may be in a public setting, and then that kind of filters in through your inner critic inside, and then it grows, it festers, it expands, and these are the things that drive us crazy as creatives, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are situations, I mean, nobody's perfect. And I know sometimes, when people criticize your work and they sometimes may have a point, right? Because, you know, I, I'm not in a position to say that I create perfect works which could not be improved in any way. Probably if I had like a team of 20 people working on any of my works, we could improve each and every one of them. You know what I mean? And the thing with generally with illustration or with illustration or movie posters is like, there's you can always improve something, and it's not like a finished meal that you make scrambled eggs and they are ready, right? And you cannot overdo them, right? um I don't know if you if you get what I mean. It's like you can always change something, and sometimes people have a point, right? Of course, I'm not saying that I'm really laid back when somebody criticizes my work and I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. Basically, what I do is it's horrible, and I agree with you, right? But sometimes people do have a point, right? So you have to learn how to respond to criticism. Of course, very often. I mean, these days when everything is out in the internet, right? There are so many critics, right? I mean, everybody's an art critic, everybody's an food critic or movie critic, right? And you have to face it that there will be also people who will just criticize it because I don't know, they just criticize everything, right? And they think it's fun to criticize stuff. I don't know really.
Well, I was gonna say, do you ever engage with people about, your artwork? I mean, I know when you're in the gallery exhibits, right? And you have everybody talking with you, but what about people who are anonymous out there?
Yeah, I usually don't get involved. I mean, I don't really. I think it's just everybody has the right to have his or her or well their opinion, and I try not to get involved in the discussion unless somebody like openly asks me. Then yes, but if I see some comments below my work, or people post my work in different forums or media or Reddit and stuff like this, and with posters like Lolita or Jaws, you always have people who like it, people who don't like it. It's best not to get involved. I think it's safer. I mean, for your let's say psychological.
Just kind of tune out the noise.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's talk about that Jaws piece too, because I'm going to bring that up here. I just posted in the chat. This is a really interesting piece because I think this speaks to two aspects of your work that I see in a lot of your pieces is your strong conceptual ideas, your subtle meanings, and also the texture that you tend to incorporate into your work.
Mhm.
Shelby Lynn had messaged me privately here. She said that she works with screen printing and it's a complicated process,
It is.
but it's almost like you're in a way mimicking screen printing or etching textures, but digitally, right?
Yes, but then actually both of the posters that you've posted or pasted into the chat, they are screen prints as well, right? So
Oh, okay.
they are screen prints, right? So I'll address this first thing first, right? So these are screen prints. Yeah, they were created digitally, but then they were printed as screen prints. The Jaws was one color screen print on Stardream metallic paper, and the Lolita was a 4-color screen print, and then I made a variant with the UV varnish, selective varnish, which is applied only on the lollipop, right? So yeah, but I'll just come back to the first question you had about the traditional printmaking, which I studied. So this helps a lot, yeah, because even though I work digitally, I know exactly what the process is, and I've created screen prints and other prints during my studies. So even though I work traditionally, I create my works from scratch with the intention of them being screen prints, because some people, let's say, create full color pieces on tablets or iPads or other tools, right, with other tools, and then they ask someone to do the color separation because it's possible as well, right? I create my works knowing that these will be screen printed, so I draw each color separately and bearing in mind that these will be screen printed. I don't know if you guys know what screen printing is, you probably know what I mean. So yeah, that's the idea, yeah, about those. Yeah, and there was a second part of a question which I forgot.
Yeah, well, it was speaking to it's basically your style. Two things that I see in a lot of your work is a lot of texture and a lot of concept. When you're trying to find your style, do you actively try to figure something out, or like one day you're like, okay, I'm going to do all my art this way, or does your style naturally evolve as you work on more and more pieces?
I think the latter, right? Because I think I've mentioned at the beginning that the way I draw today is very much a result of the way I studied, right? Because I studied traditional graphics and I studied metal techniques, so etching, aquaphor, and stuff like that. And basically, when you think of these techniques, you draw. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the technique, yeah. But when you do etching, you draw on a metal plate which is covered with special varnish. You draw with a needle, and then you put it into the acid, and depending on how much time you leave the metal plate in the acid, well, the longer you leave it in the acid, the thicker lines you get. I don't know if it makes sense, right? But if you look now at the Jaws print that you've pasted, it's exactly this, right? So I work only with the line, but I try to create some kind of space or water surface just with the use of the well, like curves and the thickness of the line. Yeah, so this could easily be an etching, even though it was digital and then it was made into screen print. But but I think this explains the process or getting to the point where I draw how I draw, right? So I think it's a it's a process. And when I think of the artists that I liked when I was a teenager, they drew something totally different. But then there's like 1% of each artist which I like in my artwork today. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And then going to like the concept, because the typical movie poster for Jaws, a lot of people are familiar with it. It has the big shark, looking up towards the swimmer, but you chose to just have this huge sea of water and this tiny little fin. And I really dig that because it's a different take on it. It's almost like it plays into movie making in general, right? Where you never show the creature, you never show the monster, you leave it up to the imagination. And what I see in your piece is fear. That's why I like this piece. Was that what you're going for?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, I wanted to create because the poster, the original poster for Jaws, as you've mentioned, is like iconic. Everybody has seen it. You've seen like 1 million remakes of it with different creatures, different things, different dogs, cats. I don't know, anything you can imagine, right? Uh, and then it's like straightforward. Yeah, you have this girl swimming, and then this huge shark trying to just like devour her, right? And I thought, okay, it's a great poster, right? Because I think it's a great poster. But I thought, if I'm to do an alternative poster for Jaws, what's the point of repeating the obvious, right? So, when I remember I watched this film when I was a kid, and I was like super scared, and I felt what you've just mentioned, that actually, most of the film you don't really see the shark, right? It's like the fin is just a symbol, right? You see the fin, it's like, wow, I'm like terrified here, because what's beneath the surface, right? So that was the idea, just to show just a little piece, but then leave the rest to the imagination of the viewer, right? Because everybody who sees the fin knows what it implies, let's say, right? So that was the idea, just to have like the very central composition. You have this waves which start bigger and get smaller and smaller, so that you can see the distance, right? And that was the idea, that to show something which wouldn't be so obvious, which would be symbolic, but at the same time scary. I don't know if it worked. Yeah.
I think it does. I think it's great. What do you think is lacking in today's movie posters? Now, again, the commercial ones, right? What do you think is lacking?
I think that the biggest problem, maybe I shouldn't say it, because I still get commissioned by the producers and directors, and I shouldn't say, no, they are perfect. They are amazing.
Of course.
Yeah. No,
And for all you directors and producers out there who are listening, just tune out right now.
Hello, guys. I'm working currently on a movie poster, so yeah. So no, I think they're perfect, and mine are crappy. No, no. And seriously, I think the biggest problem with today's poster is that they focus so much on the actor, because the actors sell the movie. So when you have the talent, I don't know, you have like a famous, actor, actress. I think the distributors, or the advertising agencies which do the campaigns, they have this feeling that the audience needs to see, the protagonist, and by protagonist I mean the actor who actually stars in the film. And because if I think of the majority of current movie posters, meaning the mainstream ones, it's basically the protagonist or a few protagonists, and I don't know, if it's an action movie, a car chase, and blue and yellow colors, and if it's a romantic comedy, they're sitting on a bench in the park and it's like white and red. Yeah. If it's a horror, you have a face of the protagonist, the red filter. I don't know, it's just like, it's a cliche, right? But on the other hand, I think, I don't know, I don't do film marketing research, so maybe it does work. Yeah. But the posters which I do are kind of addressed to a different audience, right? Because they are mostly either gallery shows or movie festivals. Yeah. And the audience at movie festivals is more demanding, so they don't need to see the main actor, right? They know who the main actor is, and they don't go to see the film just to see the guy or the lady, the actress that they like. They want to see something more, and I think they also want to see more in the poster, right? So yeah, that's, I think, the biggest difference between the mainstream posters and the, let's say, artistic posters. Yeah.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit and let's get into some of your other work. What things do you have to be mindful of when creating editorial illustrations? Because you don't want to offend people, but yet you still want to create an impactful piece, because that's what you're getting paid to do. How do you navigate those weird seas of editorial illustration?
Well, the biggest challenge is always the time. Yeah, because in most cases you have very little time, and you have to deliver your work very quickly. Yeah, so it's not like 1 month work like with a movie poster. It's usually a couple of days, and very often, some people like it. I prefer to have more freedom, but very often you have art directors who are very, let's say, strict, or they know exactly what they want, and this could be a challenge sometimes, yeah, because personally I prefer to work with lots of freedom, where when art director gives me the perfect solution is when the art director gives me the article, asks me to prepare a couple of sketches, and then they pick one that they like the most. Yeah, but this is not always the case. Some art directors prefer to give you like the exact idea for the illustration. Well, and sometimes the idea is great, and you know it's great that you don't have to come up with your own, right? But I kind of prefer to have more freedom. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest challenge, right? Apart from the time.
You do a lot of portraits, and some of them are in the publications. Well, most of them are. Do you ever get a chance to sit down with the person you're doing a portrait of? Do you ever get a chance to meet them and to learn about their personalities that you may incorporate into some of your work?
That would be an ideal solution, right? But the last time actually somebody I had someone sit for a portrait was during my studies, right? So when you do portraits for editorials or advertising agencies or some campaigns, you usually get reference photos, right? And there is no time to have them sit for you, right? Or talk and get the idea, right? Sometimes, I did a lot of portraits for the Hollywood Reporter, and these were always kind of twisted portraits, because I remember one when I had to draw the CEO of Legendary Pictures, who was sacked by company when the Chinese, I don't know, corporation, don't know which one, took over. So the art director sent me a really nice idea, and I loved it actually. But I couldn't have the guy sit for me for that, yeah, because they had an idea that he would be either ejected from the plane over the Great Wall, or he would be like pushed out of the plane, right? So you can't have someone sit for you for that, right? Um, so basically, I work with either references that I get, or if the references are not available, I just look for references online. And in terms of this portrait, for instance, I watched like, I don't know, 20 interviews with the guy. I took like screenshots of what kind of faces he makes, and then tried to show him this way. As you can see, if you click on the first one, you can see the guy actually, pushed out of the plane, and you can see the Great Wall of China below. And the second one, also for Hollywood Reporter, it's Michael Bloomberg. It was about two sides of his business, right? So actually here, I think they gave me a lot of freedom. They just send me the some references of the monitors he's got and the Bloomberg TV, and asked me to create a portrait. So I came up with this idea where you have the left-hand side, which is successful, and then the right-hand side, which is like rundown studio of Bloomberg TV. Yeah. So and then the line in the very center of his face, showing black and white and color. So here, as far as I remember, it was a few years ago. I was free to do whatever I like. Yeah. So.
Have you ever received direct feedback from the individual or celebrity you're illustrating?
Yeah, I remember. This is a funny story. I remember when I did one of the portraits of LeBron James, also for Hollywood Reporter. Um, um, One of his, I think, managers reached out to me, and even though the portrait was like small, it was like a quarter of the page in Hollywood Reporter. They asked me to print, if possible, a full scale, 24 by 36 inches poster, because he wanted to have it in his office. I mean, LeBron James, yeah. So it's there in his
Whoa.
office, yeah. Yeah. I remember they even sent me a photo, and then like a year later or so, another company, I think it was HBO or some sports network, don't remember, they approached me and said that they would like to pay me like royalties, because my poster is like visible in like 2 seconds of the interview that they record in his office. It's like, okay, fine. So it's strange, yeah.
That's amazing. You've won obviously a lot of awards. Does participating in some of these illustration competitions make sense? How has it contributed to you and your career?
Yeah, I've won a few awards, right? And to be honest, I can't really say whether they contributed like directly to like new clients, new commissions, etc. Because you don't ask someone, okay, so did you see me in the show? When I won the gold medal, right? But I think the, the very fact that your work is visible, like when you think of the Society of Illustrators in New York or American Illustration or World Illustration Awards, I think that the art directors also check out the work there. And when they see your work, each and every year, I think, they will remember you better. The direct result of me getting a couple of, like, there was this year when I got like 3 gold medals from Society of Illustrators, 2 in Los Angeles and 1 in New York. So this was a big deal because I remember when I came back from New York, I was invited to the morning show, like the morning show TV, to talk about my awards in New York. It was kind of funny because it's like it was for Lolita, and then the cover of like mock-up cover of Time magazine with Putin, because it was just after the first invasion. Well, we're not supposed to talk politics here, so yeah. So we'll keep it non-political, yeah. But it was 2014, yeah. So I did get invited to, like, I don't know, it's Polish morning show, in the main TV. So it was kind of funny. So I remember that I did get some recognition, because next time I went to the post office, ladies at the post office said like, "Oh, we saw you on TV." So it was kind of a fame moment for me.
Illustrators, it's actually a very dangerous profession, especially nowadays too, right? Because it seems like anybody and everybody can be offended. Yeah, I know we were hearing a lot of stories in the news years ago, right? With certain cartoonists, they would do a certain depiction of something that was offensive to someone or a different part of the world, and they would go after the cartoonist. They would go after the media company. Do you ever feel like there's a limit to illustrating, or do you think like art is art? It can be interpreted different ways. I mean, where do you find that moment to where you think, okay, I have to keep things in mind, but I also can't limit myself too much creatively.
Mhm.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I do, when bad things happen, when things happen in the world, I think it's important to take action. I mean, I do, not maybe very often, but when something happens that really bothers me, or what is really important for me, I do stuff, right? So I've created a few posters for a women's strike in Poland, because we had like huge women's strikes connected with the abortion rights, right? So I thought it's very important for me, and I create some artwork which supported them, right? And also I did some political stuff, after the war in Ukraine, right? So I think it's important to speak for the things that are important to you, right? Because I've also asked about, where's the limit? And I think the limit is just with being, just like the same limit as in a conversation. Like, you have to stop where you really hurt someone's feelings, right? So in the case where you said it, I'm not a religious person, so I wouldn't be bothered. Yeah, I'm, I wouldn't care if somebody depicts any god in any way, because I don't basically care. But at the same time, I know that there are people for whom these things are important, right? So I don't know, just be decent, speak, the truth. And I also think that the best artworks, political artworks, or like ideological artworks are not those which are like super offensive, are those which are witty. Yeah, so I think you should keep that in mind, because I think the artwork which is just super offensive, is just super offensive. Everybody will talk about it. But if you create something like super witty, which at the same time makes people think about the issue, or at the same time criticizes the issue, you want to criticize, but in a witty way, it's more difficult, and I think it will be more persuasive. Yeah.
As artists, we wield great power, but with great power comes great responsibility. Kudos to Spider-Man for that one. I love your perspective on things. I love your approach to things. You're doing some amazing pieces, but yet you're still easy to talk to. You're still very grounded, and I think that's also what makes you a good Adobe mentor too.
Oh, thank you.
Now, if you are new to the Adobe Creative Career Discord, I just want to take some time to share one of the coolest things we have going on here, and that would be the mentorship program. On the server, there are a bunch of incredible mentors specializing in all different creative fields, from graphic design to motion design to video, illustration, photography, creative writing, and so much more. And they are just waiting for you to connect with them. So here's how to access that list. Hop on over to the Adobe Creative Career Discord and look for the mentorship category. Under that section, there's a channel called Find a Mentor. Within that space, there are bios for everyone and what they specialize in. And if you can't access that mentorship category, well, hop on over to server info, click on choose a role, and select mentorship under the opt-in categories listed right there. And since we only have a few more minutes here, if you do have a question, please post it in the chat. I have a lot from Elizabeth. I've been making notes of her questions here, so I don't want to forget it. She's a great one here, because you mentioned you have like month to create a movie poster, but if we're understanding correctly, only a couple days to do editorial illustrations. Like, how many projects do you typically juggle at once?
Normally, not more than 4, because I remember just after the summer break, I had like 4 projects come in, and it was a set of, I don't know, 20 portraits, a movie poster, a poster for a calendar, and one more thing, and 2 more things. Some stuff for Boston University, some stuff for University of Massachusetts, so like 6 projects, and it was crazy. I mean, of course, the deadlines were like long, so I had to like have my agenda and plan everything with my calendar. Put the deadlines, like sketches here, sketches for this project there. But if you have 2 projects at the same time, that's perfect. Yeah. Sometimes I have 1, sometimes I have 6. So I try to keep it under 3, let's say.
Do you have any plans to do any any online classes at all?
Oh, I've been approached by by 2 of the big companies which create online courses, not to mention the names. But I'm like super busy. I've never had time to get down to it. Yeah, so I told them that one day I'm gonna do it. Yeah, so yeah. So if I don't have any more jobs, any more editorial stuff, any more posters to draw, I'll do that.
All right. So a few people here, though, might just be hobbyists, and they might be looking to turn their illustration skills into a career. And this comes from Elizabeth. Do you have any tips to get started?
Yeah, I think the best tip is to draw, and draw, and draw, and draw even more, right? So draw every day. It's like with any other skill. If you want to play guitar well, play it every day. And also, if you think that you play guitar well, it doesn't mean that you really do. And the same goes with drawing, right? So if you have a an illustration course or drawing course somewhere where you live, attend it. Also, a lot of people have problems, starting out. So instead of drawing anything just that comes to your mind, if you want to do, let's say, editorial illustration, take the article from a magazine that you like that hasn't been illustrated and illustrate it. It's, take another one, build up your portfolio with a few illustrations for like real articles so that the potential clients will see that you can illustrate. And the same goes with movie posters, create a movie poster for a film that you like, then create another one. And then, just basically, if you don't have a client project, make up a project. I remember that a few of my really nice commissions actually resulted from me doing my own stuff. So I remember when I got my first commission for the New Yorker, the art director approached me and she said that she saw my piece, a portrait. It was a portrait of Morrissey when he was still a nice guy, and it was created in this like vintage style, and it was like it was non-commissioned piece. I just did it for fun, just trying to find some new style to draw. And she found it somewhere on Behance, I think, and she liked it and said, like, I want to have the same thing but a different person, right? So I just did something, like a self-initiated project, and it got me a job at New Yorkers. So I think it's a great way to start for you.
Hey, there you go. And what's the best piece of advice you've received, whether related to illustration or just life in general?
Oh, tough question. I don't know. I remember something that one of my art teachers said. Don't be afraid of the blank space. Like a lot of people, when they see a page which is blank and they draw something and it's still blank, they have the need to illustrate the rest of it. Sometimes, the less you draw, the better. The best posters I can think of are the ones which are the most minimalistic. So I would say that's a good piece of advice, I think.
That's beautiful, and it reflects your style. You a lot of your pieces have that minimalism incorporated into it, which is what makes it really impactful. Well, look, I wish we had more time. Unfortunately, we don't, but this has just been an amazing conversation here. And, you can learn more about Bartosz Kosowski at his website, on Behance, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I encourage you to connect with him on all of those sites. And I just want to, thank you, Bartosz, for taking the time to join us today and discuss your incredible career journey. So thank you to everyone who tuned in to listen to me, your host, Justin Bamforth, aka JBam. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot. And thanks to all of you who listened. Thanks a lot.
For more conversations with creative professionals, subscribe to the Spotlight Sessions podcast or check out the Adobe Creative Career Discord. Links are posted in the show notes, or visit adobediscord.com and click on Adobe Creative Career.